So while we wait for others to join, are we all back? Are we missing someone? I think we removed one more person or two.
We are 9.
Yeah. Okay. So so now you remember what I just mentioned about when you put scripts in the head. I hope you can all see my screen.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So when I mentioned when you put a script in the head and what happens, that is exactly what is happening here. Okay. So now it's loading your page. It's trying to load this guy. But at the point when it's trying to load this guy, it has not seen this element called div. It has not started loading body. And so it's telling you that you can't apply this inner HTML to what does not exist. Can you see? So at the end of the day, we have an error on our page. Like I said, when you are writing your JavaScript, do your inspect, and under console, you would see the error. So it's saying uncut type reference cannot set this to this inner HTML property. Do you understand now? So that's what it's telling us, that we can't set this to inner HTML property. But when we used it in the body, remember it worked. But now we cannot use it because it's trying to find it and it can't see it. Okay. So there are ways that we can use to do this. So instead of this, I can write a function and say, I'll tell us what the function is later. And let's put this in a function and give a function a name. Let me say function display. Okay, so I put this function display. Okay, and let me load my page. Now I don't have the error anymore, but it's not also loading the content of the function. This is wonderful. So for me to be able to remove that error, I need to put it in a function. And if I want to display this guy, all I need to do is to call this function in my on click of the button. Okay, so I'll duplicate this to create another button and say change function. Okay, so here I'm just duplicating that button. Let me put this down so you can see. Don't mind me, the page will look scattered, but it's I'm trying to do something different. Then I changed the name to any name just for now. Okay, so the most important thing I want to show here is that I'll call the function, and this is how to call a function in JavaScript. So I just call the function name. So what's the function name? Let's get it.
Display.
Display, yes, thank you. Sorry, I have a call. I'll try to pick it and return back. So I can call it like this and put this in front of it. Okay. So when I click this button called change function, it should display exactly the same thing. And if we call this, we should also get the same thing because this is just the code we moved up. Okay. So we save and we refresh. Okay. So this change context is the first one. Yes. But when we now click, let's refresh back and click change function. Can you see it's doing the same thing and it will still change this content? So we have shown two ways that we can call this either in the head or in the body. Okay. So, but this one is inline, which is when you click on it, you saw the code inline. This code is still there. But this other one is calling a display function up here. So either way, you put it up or you put it down. You can still bring this here. It will still see the function. Let's refresh. Refresh the page and we'll call it. It will still work. So your function works either in the head or in the body. And the good thing about function in the head is that it does not try to load the content immediately, just like the way we did without putting it in a function. Because until this function is called, it does not execute. Okay, so I think I've jumped my class. So can we try this out on our side? I want to take a break of 5 minutes. I have an important call I need to pick, and I'll come back. We'll continue from here. Is that okay?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much. I sincerely apologize for the break in transmission. I had to attend to something urgent. Okay, did anybody try this? Should we just move on? Are we still here? Should I continue?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so we've talked about positioning JavaScript either in the head, in the body, and the rest of them. So I don't have to follow these examples. So let's talk about variables, how to declare variables, the difference between variables and char, and naming of variables. We'll go to functions. I've explained one already, but we'll go to more functions. We'll talk about number methods and the rest of them. So this is main code in JavaScript now. So let's go on. So what is a variable? So for you to follow me, I want everybody to go to the browser so that we can continue from there instead of using our editor. Okay, so we have this our page. On your page, when you go to inspect elements, there is a tab called console. Here you can write any JavaScript and it will work. Like I can say let a equals 10. Okay. And I say let's display here. So I don't need to use console.log. So it gives me 10, telling me that the content of A is 10. Okay, so what's a variable? A variable is a named memory location in the system or in your computer memory where you can store a value. Okay, and there are two ways to which we can store a value, to which we can declare a variable. We can actually declare a variable through by saying, for example, using the keyword let. Okay, that's the keyword we use to declare a variable. So I can say let A equals to 10. Most of our JavaScript statements are terminated with semicolon, just exactly the way you write your Java. I'm not sure they do that in Python. I can say let A is equals to 10 and say let B equals to 20. Okay, and I can say let C equals to A plus B. And the last thing I say console dot log. I want to print C. Okay, so let's see what happens. I want to print this in console.log, and I can also alert C for it to display it. So let's see which works in both of them. So I don't want to execute this guy anymore. To comment, for those of us that knows programming, to comment or to do a remark in JavaScript, you use a double slash, or you can use this block comment. This allows you to comment more than one block. Let's say I want to comment more than one line. I want to comment this whole thing. Okay, so this whole statement becomes a comment. So I can use the asterisk slash to do that. Okay, so there are two ways of commenting that I know: the block comment type like this, or the double slash. So comment means that when the browser or the JavaScript engine is running this code, when it gets here, it will not perform any task here. It will not do anything. It will just move on. Okay, so that's it. So let's test this display. Remember, we are calling display on the click of this button. So let's try it out and see what it gives us. Refresh. Okay, so when we click on change function, so we can see the result is 30. So where is 30 coming from? Sorry. I think I clicked save automatically. want to clear my console. Sorry, I'm trying to clear my console. I don't know why clear console is not working. Clear console. Wow. All right, so I've tried to log this C into my console, but I can't see it show, but the alert one is showing. So in essence, what I'm just trying to teach is what a variable is. So a variable can be defined with the let keyword, and that means that we are saying let 10 goes into A. So there's a space in memory that we have named A, and we want to keep 10 into it. Also, you can define another variable like this. So we now want to sum the content of A and the content of B together to enter into C. And whatever the answer is, we want to display it out. So that's what I've just tried. So that's a variable, okay? So, and now we also have what we call the var keyword. So instead of declaring with a let, you can declare with a var. So I can say var sum is equals to 0. And here, instead of saying let's see is equals to this, I can say sum equals to A plus B. So I don't need to declare this anymore. So this will still perform what it's meant to do. I'm alerting C. I'm logging C. Okay. So either you use a var or use a let. That's how we declare variable in JavaScript. Let's run this. Okay. Click the button. Starting. I'm just curious why this is not showing in console. Okay, so let's see. Who knows why it's not showing? Anybody, any ideas? I'm the teacher, right? I should know. Let's see what it's telling us. Does it have any message for us? Foundation, click handler, took this. Okay, no, this is not what I mean. No errors anyway. So let's leave that for now and move on to the next one. So that's a variable, and there's a difference between this and this. So this can be defined within a block and used within a block. Why this can be used within the whole application. This can work within the whole application when you are declaring a variable with var, but when you are declaring a variable with let, it can be within a block. We are going to take examples from the slides so that we don't go too much off track. Let's go to where we have functions. Okay, so the definition says this is a big part of programming. Use variable to store data and to update if needed, and the rest of the thing there. And then we saw some examples. Okay, so this is what I tried to do. It's supposed to work. I don't know why. Maybe you can try it on your side and see whether it works. But one thing you cannot do is you cannot come to this console.log and be typing this. To try an error because this is the console. And whatever we are logging, we want it to show here. So instead of doing something like this, for example, when I say var a, var s is equals to 5, okay? And I do an enter and say console.log s. Going to show you undefined, but so instead of doing that here in this console, all you just need to do is s, and then it gives you the value that you stored into it. So that's the two difference. Okay, so let's go to the next one. We've done this already. Naming convention, definitely when you are naming, please make sure if it's more than 2 words, you use camel case. For those of us that were in Java class, I already talked about that. Okay, so the difference between var and let, you can find out more online. It's telling us that both are used for the variable declaration, yes, but the difference is one is a function scope and the other one is a blocks code. So I think we have an example somewhere. Okay, so let's just try to run this example. Let me explain what this code is before we run it. So, for example, it's telling us that when we declare something as we use var to declare. Let's copy it. It's not clear here. Let's go to our code. Let's create another function. Is there anybody in this class that was not in the Java class or in Python class? So I can explain what a function is.
Yeah, I was not there.
Okay, do you know what a function is? Have you heard about functions before?
No, but I'm still trying to look at how you're.
Okay, I'm doing it. Okay, so in the example I did before, a function is just like a block of code that you've written to perform a particular task. Okay, so instead of, for example, you have your hand. What you can do with your hand is that you can decide that your hand can fetch something, can pick up something, can carry something, and your leg, what it does is that it can walk, it can run, and a lot of things that you can do with your legs. Okay, so you have this whole human body as the body of the program, but you want to designate little functions to some part of the program. So you designate what your hand can do, you designate what your head can do. So in our program, we write function just to designate a little part of our code to perform a particular task. So whatever task you want it to perform, we just put it in that function, that segment, right? So now before we're using this display just to show hello world. Now I'm trying to explain some things here now. So what I'm doing right now here is that I'm using it to display the sum of adding two numbers together. So now I want to use another function to tell us the difference between when you are using the var keyword and the what's this other one, and the let keyword. Okay, so let's see that. Now test. Let me name the function properly. Test. Let's use underscore var underscore let. Okay, so in case you don't want to do camel case, you can use the underscore. Separate your names. Okay, let's do Alt Shift F. Okay, this helps me to arrange my document properly. So the first one is declaring variable X and is writing it on a page. Document, remember I told you document is your current web page. Okay, this page, that's document. Whenever you see document, okay, that's your current web page. So we are writing something on it. So we want to write this X. So we want it to print out X. And then we have our line escape or the break line notation. So this will write X and then move on to the next line under the X. Okay. So now that we have declared X, we decide to declare Y as 10 using the keyword let. Here we are using the keyword var. Okay. So we decide to write Y. And then later on, we decide to write Z before declaring Z. Okay. This is not an oversight. This is to test and to let you know the difference between var and let. Why would somebody want to spend your money before earning the money? That's what we are trying to do here. We have not declared this Z, but we're already using it. Okay. So it's telling us that it's going to return undefined. Okay. But if we try to do the same thing with a let command or with a let keyword, trying to use our money before we earn our money, it will throw an error. So when you do that with var, it will not throw an error. But when you do that with let, it will throw an error. So this is just a simple example to let you know that this guy definition covers the whole function. But this guy definition is just within a scope. So you cannot call it when you have not even earned it, but you can escape with it when you do this. So that's the simple code. I can paste it in the chat if you want to test it and see how it runs. It's simple. It's straightforward. Try that code, and I will just call. Let's just create another bot. so that we have things separated. This one is calling this now. Values test. So work more with this part. Okay. So all right, let's move on. Test it. Okay, text bar. So you can see when we do document.write, it removes what you have on your page and write on the page itself. Okay, and because we are using in the code, if you look at the code, at the point when we are using this, it throws an error for us. If you notice that the last thing it wrote is undefined, which is at this point. Okay, it has 5, 10, then undefined, and then this last one throws an error. Where do we see the error? Like I explained, you always see the error, and this we try to explain what the error is. So it's saying you cannot access A before initialization. Okay, so that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to use A before initialization, but for Z, because we define it with a var, you can use it before initialization. So the more you grow in JavaScript, you understand when and how to use something. Okay, so let's move on to the next one. So naming your, okay, there's another example here. I think this gives us more details, but I can paste it in the chat for you to test. This is the whole script. Okay, so we have notification telling us we have 10 minutes more. Let's try and cover some other things before we go on. You can try this one too. Okay, so naming variable says that all these names here, abstract, boolean, you should not use them, but you can use variable names that start with a $sign and the rest of it. So I think it's just pretty simple for us to know that there are some keywords that are special to the JavaScript engine that we should not use. So that's what this part is telling us. I've tried to explain function, that function accepts what parameters, A and B, for example, and it returns the values. So we can try to see how this plays out by trying out this. Now, all the ones that we have done is not accepting any parameter. It's just empty. So in this case now, instead of declaring these values here, we can say x, y. Okay, x, y. So we don't do this anymore because we are expecting somebody to give us the x, and we don't do this anymore also because we are expecting somebody to give us the y. Okay, so this is a variable. These are the parameters you are passing to the variable. Sorry, this is a function, and these are the parameters that you can pass to the function. So you can use or do anything with the parameter. So let's say y, I can decide to say when you give me y, just add 10 to the y. Okay, x, whatever you pass as x, subtract 1 from it. So you can still perform the mathematical function while I still have my z and the rest the way they should be. So now, how do I now call this function with parameters? To call the function with parameters, all you just have to do is to pass the parameters. So I'm passing 5 for x, I'm passing 10 for y. So this is how you do it. Let's see how that works. So our y, we had 10 to it. So we should expect 20 to be printed out. And our x would have -1, which is, it should give us 4. So let's see how that turns out. Yes, so this is it. It works. So it just shows that we can also do what? Pass parameters to our function. And what are parameters? Parameters are just like variable names that you can pass. So you don't need to define this parameter as integer, or you want to define them as string and the rest of them. No. So in JavaScript, you just pass them the way they are. So automatically, whatever you are assigning to it, or whatever you are passing to it, it takes that form. Okay. So for example, I can decide to say 5.0 or 5.5. Let's pass 5.5 and pass 10.6. Let's see what it prints out for that. And I want to subtract 1 from 5.5. I want to do this other one too. Okay, so test. So you can see automatically it knows what you are doing. It knows, it detects the type. That's the beauty of JavaScript. So you don't need to bother about what is it, an integer I should use, or is it a float? Just pass your parameter to it. It will take.
I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
My question is, what is the relevance of all this to this
Programming
design?
Yes, thank you very much. So we need to know all this because by the time you get into web design, you are going to be calling different functions. You are going to be, forget that I'm using mathematical examples here, okay? You are going to be calling these different functions. You are going to be using them in your code. You can call a function to change the whole background on a click of a button. You can call a function to do something dynamically on a click of a button, or when you move your mouse, you want it to change to a particular color. Okay, so you can call a JavaScript function to do that. So that is the essence of all these functions that I'm teaching. And so sometimes when you need to perform some, let's say you have a loan calculator, someone goes to your site, and we all know, if we're in Sweden, we know economic factor, right? Economic factor.sc. Okay, so you come to this site, for example. Where is that thing? There used to be something that can help you calculate your tax and something. I remember where it is on this page. Okay, yeah, this is it. So you come to this form. I would not think that anybody will write something like this. Let's say you are earning 10,000 and you have a tax of, what's this one? Let me turn it to English, sorry.
That is another income, additional income.
Additional income, yes. Okay, so let's say you're born in 1990 and your municipality where you are staying in Sweden is, no, there's no municipality like this. Upland, let's select. I don't know, it's not showing something today. Okay,
Yeah,
let's see.
Yep.
Yes, yeah. Okay, so you do a calculator, just this simple thing. I don't expect somebody would allow you to go to the database and come back because you want to perform this calculation. So you can just write a function that will just do all this and show you the answer immediately, right? We can check what was done on this page and see if we can see any JavaScript used. Okay, immediately I think I saw Angular. So I think they built this page with Angular or something. Let's see. I'm not sure. You can see in ASP.NET ED. Let's move. Let's move. Okay, so we are in this section. Let's go inside and see what. Okay, so and apart from that, on this page, I can check sources and see some of their files. Okay, I can see some of their files. I can do a lot of other things I can see on this their page. See a lot of errors on this page. Okay, I can clear them out. So clear console. So this page has a lot of error, but what I'm just trying to say is that you can write a JavaScript function that will just do this calculation. When you click on calculate, it performs a particular thing for you. This button, I want to be able to access this button. So it will be inside title block container, the H4. You can see how I'm moving. I'm trying to locate the button. Fit, set, calculate. Okay, so button. Now this is the button. Let's see what it's doing. The button has ID, blah, blah, blah. Did they specify the data URL to use? This is the calculate. Okay, so maybe on the form. Let's look for the form. Maybe on the form we can find it. Anyway, so just let's not waste our time here. Just look at this. What I should have expected is that they will use a JavaScript to implement this without, you can see a link to their JavaScript and all these things that they have. So they will use the JavaScript to implement this so that you don't do heavy computation on the browser. So so these are the little things that you can do with JavaScript on your website and more. Okay, does that answer your question? No.
Yes, thank you.
Yes. Okay. We have less than 2 minutes now. I think we should end that here and continue next week. The other ones are very simple. So I'll give you as an assignment, look at the math function. We have the math function in JavaScript too, just like we did in Java. Look at your number method, how you can pass an integer and convert it to float, how you can pass a float and convert it to all this, how you can specify 2 decimal points, 3 decimal points, and the rest. Then how to use the string quotation. The line escape, I used that in one of the example. What else? Temporal literals. These are just simple things. We can look at them. The string method, how to use index of substring. Index of is trying to say that when you have hello, this index is 0, 1, 2, 3, just like you have arrays in Java. Okay, so I think I'm almost done. Okay, so sorry, there's no more time. We'll continue from here next week. Sorry, on Thursday. And maybe then, like I said, we'll be looking at something else, which is building its website from an existing template. If you have any questions, send me an email. Thank you very much for attending the class today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you for your time.
Yeah.